Welcome, you lovely people. Today's episode is going to be taking on a look at a different kind of level design, but level design nonetheless. So I hope you look forward to this one. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pear, Senior Level Design. Absolute pleasure to be chatting with you. Hope that you're having a great morning, evening, or night. Whenever you're listening to this show, I appreciate the time and that your loved ones are safe. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is the lovely people over at Manscaped.com, who are best known for making premium products for your below-the-waist area. As many of you know and feel, the world is starting to open up again. We're able to go see our loved ones, travel, and much more. And I'm sure, like many of you, let yourself go as bad as I did by either trying out new hairstyles and growing it long, or sadly putting on your COVID-19 pounds. But if you're looking to get back out there and leave your development caves and feel better, then allow Manscaped to help with their new Performance 4.0 package. This is just released, and let me tell you, pun intended, it is a game changer. Now, the products that you're going to be able to receive in this is their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ears and nose hair trimmer, crop preservation ball deodorant, and much, much more. And it feels very weird to say that to all of you lovely people. And the reason that I'm telling you this, with now the world starting to come out, you need to make sure that you feel confident and that you look great. And by having these products, you're able to do so by taking care and making yourself seem more presentable. Now, this is their 4th generation trimmer, which has a great cutting edge blade to reduce grooming accidents, so you don't have any little issues with your smooth and sensitive areas. And what makes this really cool is the fact they actually have a 400k LED spotlight to help make your shave far more precise and to get a clearer vision on what you'll hopefully be sharing with your loved ones, clearer vision as well. But that isn't the only cool new feature within the Weed Whacker. It's actually waterproof as well, so don't worry about any more messes as you are spending time making sure your grooming is taken care of and that your looks are looking as good as you feel. And these, let me tell you, are quality products that already are incredible. I have been kind enough to receive a package, and wow, the design of these, and we know I talk about design on different things such as level and game design, but the actual product design of theirs is incredible. We already talked about the LED light, which is such a smart idea. But not only that, they're giving 2 free gifts as well with their performance package, which is the boxes and travel bag. So if you're looking to go to some sort of romantic getaway with your loved one, then this here will help you make sure that you're for peak performance and looking and feeling your best. So now if you want to get a hold of this and start feeling better and looking better as we start to get back to normal, head over to manscaped.com and use the code LDL, that's right, 3 little letters, all caps LDL, which will get you 20% off with free shipping as well. So use that, feel better, get better, and enjoy these great products by manscaped.com. Alright everyone, back to the episode. Hope that you are well as well and been enjoying yourself. I just come back from my brother's stag do, which is great to be part of. And really glad as he seemed to enjoy himself. So great there, not long till the wedding now, so I'm very excited for that and thought I'd share a little bit more about myself and what's been going on my side. So that's been a great one for me. And because of this planning there, that and a few other things that's been happening on my side, I haven't had a great amount of time to actually sit down and really play games recently. So I've been doing some more kind of indie games or mobile games, and I came across 2 which have some similarity but are different from our usual kind of topics that I want to discuss. And the 2 games are Unpacking as well as Assemble with Care. Now, if you don't know either of these, I'll kind of give a brief summary on each of one. Unpacking is basically a game in which you are, as the title suggests, unpacking your equipment around your house and your apartments. And you do this around multiple apartments to show the stage and, I guess, life moments that happens with each time that you move as the character, and each one kind of giving you a new sense of narrative, as well as what kind of happens in this character's life from where we first started in our very first kind of college dorm, through relationships and much more. And the fascinating part is how they do this with, as we just talked about, unpacking different objects, where you place them, how much space that we have as players to actually unpack our objects and belongings as well. And the next one is by us two, which is Assemble with Care, which is on mobile and now Steam, I believe. And this one is where you take on the role of a repair woman as you go to a new town, and as it's just repair and assemble with care of people's belongings and items. And I really enjoyed playing both these games and seeing the different sides of, again, how narrative works in this different field of level design. Because when you think about it, the apartment or that of the item that you're repairing are the levels, compared to the more traditional levels that we normally talk about on this show, or that I usually play on the more kind of action adventure heavy side of games that I'm personally a big fan of. And I wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of similarities, but different approaches that both of these studios and games take in how they deliver narrative, and some that I find better than others. So I want to say this is like, any critiques I have doesn't mean that any of these games are bad. Let's make that avidly clear. They've designed it in a very different approach to how I would, right? And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Their minds and design philosophies are different to mine. I do not know it all. I have the benefit of hindsight as well, with being able to play their finished products versus starting with a blank canvas to where we are now. So again, just in case anyone who's made these games tends to be listening, it's never an insult, never an attack or anything like that. Games take so much effort to make and create. I always absolutely show respect for that. And like I said, we'll be talking about positives and differences that I might think about, but never anything bad. Always feel I have to preface that because, again, I don't want anyone to think that I'm here trying to have a go. And now, with that said, let's not dilly-dally and get very much into the very first part. So the first part we're talking about is that of narrative, right? Now, I know I'm not necessarily a narrative designer, and some people are not a huge fan to discuss narrative, but I think it's a really important part because as level designers, we have to make sure that our levels are filled with narrative, that we're able to hook players into the game and make sure that we appeal to that of the lovers of the story, so they're able to understand what's going on, that we deliver plot. Now, it may be us spacing out enough space for that of a cutscene, environmental storytelling, working with our artists, or maybe that of the pacing of the level itself. All of this ties into the narrative. So how does that actually work when you're actually just unpacking or repairing that of an item? And it was a very fascinating one to see. Now, I will say, in my opinion, out of the two, unpacking did it better, in my opinion. Simply because of the fact that there isn't any cutscenes or anything like that. And when I say that, this isn't a jab at cutscenes, but it felt very natural, right? It felt with each kind of apartment we were going through, we're able actually to tell what's happening at each stage of the life of this character, right? We can very much tell a college dorm room simply because there's tons of books and not much space at all. It was just that of a bedroom and a small ensuite as well. So we can tell, oh, okay, it's very clear that they're learning. And also the technology as well at the time. You have these giant PCs and screens compared to what we have now with our flat screen TVs and monitors. You can see that in the time, so we can almost place the rough time period that this is taking in as well, versus other games, right, that may need to start off with some text flashing on the screen saying 1980s. Well, we can tell this with fashion and tech. So a really smart, I think just a smart clue for those right off the bat. There's no word, there's no text needed. We can show this with items as well as the limited space. So we're able to start to piece that together. Then what I found with, say, Assemble with Care is it has these kind of almost comic book slash, audio elements to it when you're starting out, right? There's a little bit of narrative of who we are as the repair woman, going through into where we are and these elements. Now, the thing that I think could have been a little bit more interesting, shall we say, and again, they still have some really nice, I think the voice actors are fantastic in it. I think the thing that I would have loved to have seen personally, sorry, I'm rattling a chain around here, is the gameplay versus the narrative are very different in terms of feel, right? When you think that about Assemble with Care, you're taking things apart and reattaching them, all of that. Yet, all we're doing in the narrative is we're just scrolling down. So the movements feel different. Now, I wrote an article years ago with, I think the title was like Turning Ordinary to Extraordinary, and it talks about these incredible games which took traditional, traditional parts which we as gamers normally look over, whether that be main menus or loading screen, and turn them into very memorable moments which really deliver and change how we view things. If you look at Dragon Age Inquisition, I believe Infamous, the very first one, did it as well. You've got a main menu, and as soon as you hit new game, an explosion happens, and it makes the main menu like interactive in its own right, compared to something that's very more static and kind of bland. When we think of main menus, we don't really think of them other than just giving us options and then moving on to the next thing that we actually want to engage with. So I thought what would have been a fascinating one, and again, this is the brilliance of hindsight, as well as that of, again, it might not have worked, but assembling the story yourself, right?
At LevelDesign Lobby, we believe everybody has a story to tell. Hobbyist or student, freelancer or veteran, we made it our mission to unite those who share our passion for creating and developing great games. Thanks to our generous Patreon backers, we've been able to do just that. So if you've already pledged your support, thank you. If not, you too can ensure the future of LevelDesign Lobby, helping us to create even more exciting content, collaborations, interviews, and much more. With awesome perks and rewards, whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, you're sure to find something for you. Want to share tips, tricks, and advice with passionate, like-minded developers? Our awesome community Discord has you covered. Fancy practicing your level design, creating strong portfolio content, and having fun? Then try our level design weekends. Or perhaps you want to individually discuss your work, hone your skills, or level up your career? Then consider our one-on-one mentorships. If you share our vision, then go to patreon.com/LevelDesignLobby for more information and to pledge your support. Thank you.
We've talked about Florence multiple times with two of the developers, as well as just my personal love for it. But I would have loved to have seen something like that, and the narrative, right? Like we're almost piecing together the story instead of scrolling down. That we're, especially, spoilers here, a lot of the narrative in Assemble with Care is all about not just repairing items, but repairing relationships with the customers you meet. And I think that would have been a far more impactful way to get the narrative across, right? Repairing the story, piecing it together, as we figure out more about our character compared to what it was. And also by doing this, you're starting to teach the player the mechanics as well in a much more kind of safe, and I mean it's not a fail state game at all by any means. But I will say, when we're talking about ordinary to extraordinary, I do love their menu system. While you're repairing objects, there's a cup of coffee just in normally the lower right screen, and if you click on that, it brings up the pause menu. Loved it. I love the idea of, when we go to sip coffee or tea. I'm not a particularly coffee drinker. Fun fact for you to never remember, but I love that idea. The concept of that to me is brilliant. I really enjoyed that bit. So seeing that there, like they have a part of it with the coffee screen, pulling that into the story would have been a fascinating one. And I personally wasn't a huge fan of the paneling of the stories as well. Just, I've never paneled a comic, so I have no expertise. I've only read the Scott McGovern's, I believe, Understanding Comics, which was great. I really enjoyed that, and have read a few which always stuck with me. And if you haven't, do read Berserk. Now that, side note, it's continuing, so if you're a Berserk fan, that's interesting news for sure. And yeah, I think there's going to be some great stuff to learn from that, and just the paneling itself is its own talent, shall we say, right? It's incredible what people can do. So learning from that as well would have been a fantastic thing. So narrative approached in very different ways. Now let's go talking about freedom of expression, because I think this one's a really fun aspect, especially of an unpacking, right? There is only a few items that I saw when messing around that you had to make sure were in certain places, right? And it's logical sense, common sense. But placing them around, you have the freedom, very much of expression of how would you go through and decorate this home. So you're taking on the role of a character for sure, but it's still your interpretation of the character's expression, because you're starting to organize these stuffed toys. Now, I've seen some pictures online where people have them put neatly on the bed, rows, especially these chickens. When I was doing it, I had them like scattered around the bedroom, not in a messy manner, but that of like wherever you would look, you'd get some sort of joy or comfort in finding these cuddly toys. And I absolutely loved that sense of creativity. So like I said, there are bar a few items which have to be in certain places or rooms, there is creativity for you, and we get to express a bit more about ourselves, as well as understanding who the character is and piecing those points of their life. Because again, a lot of us are going to go through the same stages, right? Whether that is either going to college or getting your first apartment away from your parents, moving in with partners, breakups, and having, your space hopefully increase as you go through your career, earning more money, like I said, meeting someone, so your finances will allow that as well. So seeing all of that, but yet still being able to express yourself, was quite a freeing as well as just engaging point of view, right? Just think about that. Each and every one of us has a bed, but we will pick different either materials, colors, all within our bed sheets alone before we get on with how we decorate it. So it's an incredible thought process to think about and have, right? That we still have that freedom. Now, assemble with care doesn't necessarily have the freedom, because you're repairing items, so you have to put things in the correct order to make them work, right? So it's limited. But what I loved was the objects that you get as well, each meaning something different to not only that of the characters within the game, but us as the player, right? Because there's a range of different things that we have to assemble. Now, it can range from that of a retro-inspired Game Boy, which many of us, I'm sure, will have had in our childhood, to that of a incredible camera. I'm sure many of you, like myself, love photography and cameras, or to that of a watch. And The watch especially was a huge thing for me because my father is really into watches. He's got a really nice collection. He loves that of timekeeping, and my brother got into it, and I've only recently got into watches as well. When I say that, I don't own anything crazy like Rolex or Omega. So it's not worth trying to mug me when I say that, because sadly there's a lot of crime with watches recently. But these kind of items really resonated with me because of the fact that I have some family history. Now, watches may not resonate with you as a player simply because of the fact, like I said, not everyone is into that. But seeing a cassette tape and use a pencil to wind in the tape was something I remember doing as a child. And I'm sure there's people listening who are like, "What? What's that? Why would you do that?" But the joys of time constantly pressing forward as I get older. But it was a great one to see that each item, although, as I said, meaningful and powerful to the characters who've approached us as the player to repair, also bring that sort of nostalgic or own memories of these kind of items flooding back into us. I wish I knew how to repair watches. I think it'd be a really fascinating one for me to know as a personal skill. But I'd probably destroy many before I even learned correctly how to do it. But we have this safe and educational environment within the game to allow us to still correctly and accurately make these fixes as we see fit. Now, as I said, there isn't as much freedom of expression compared to unpacking, but we still get that kind of freedom of interpretation. These memories, if you will, these understanding of different items meaning different things to each of us as individuals and players still has profound impact and intrigue on us as players. So you may be limited on what you can do, but each piece will feel different and resonate with each and every one of us differently who plays. And I really do appreciate that as well. Because, as I said, it was exciting for me to go from assembling that of a cassette player, which, I have very minimal care for. I had some as a kid, but it wasn't really my kind of thing. Like, I was just born when CDs were starting to take over, right? But then to a watch and to a Game Boy and to a camera as well, I think is brilliant. As I said, each one having a deeper connection with me and some not as well. So I think that was a fantastic still way to feel connected with the game. Now, when we think about these games from a level design perspective, they're not traditional, right? As I mentioned at the very start of this, repairing items and unpacking items, they kind of, how do I say, lack a sense of, I know I really don't like the term toys, which just stands for mechanics. They lack those elements, right? That diversity of mechanics that we're used to, right? Both unpacking and assemble with care, depending on you as a player, you might get a little bit bored through part of them just because it's the same thing over, just in a slightly different space or array, right? This is again not me insulting anything. This is me just saying it's the nature of the beast, right? And I think this is a one that was still fascinating to see because they did diversify in different ways that I thought was quite fascinating to still try make sure the players were engaged, that it didn't feel like it was just another item to repair or it's just another apartment. One moment that sticks out with me when it comes to unpacking is you move in with a male partner in this skyscraper apartment. Now, I believe it's a skyscraper simply just because of the views outside the windows. But one of the things that they really do or emphasize with this is the difference between this partner, which again, we will never meet, we will never have dialogue when it comes to unpacking, yet we can still tell a lot about our character and this partner, and they make this very juxtaposition with his predominant color scheme, which is very black and grey, very muted tones, to our character, who we've seen through I think it's about 3 apartments or 4 at this point, who is extremely colourful, extremely energetic, I get from all of their collections. And from that, we can kind of already get a sense that this isn't going to work, right? We feel like we're leaving a mark on someone else's place versus that of creating our own space, our own sense. And this one really stuck out with me because of how different it was. Now, spoilers. Well, I won't actually spoil it. Well, I'll spoil this bit, I guess. It doesn't work out between these two, but you already get that sense of unease and discomfort when you're unpacking because it feels so different, that we're in a whole different space that we've never been in compared to making a space ours. We're trying to fit into that of their routines, that of their space, their lives, that we're almost feeling we're invading. And it's a little bit too on the nose. It really honestly looks like, I don't know if any of you have seen How I Met Your Mother, but Barney Stinson's apartment, I feel, is like, if it wasn't, it's a coincidence, because that feels like a huge inspiration for this boyfriend's apartment, making it feel very soulless. But this one sticks with me because, again, you can already feel it being not as comfortable. It feels different from what was previously done, right, in the other environments, compared to what we had and eventually where you'll go after this space. But this one sticks with me from an interesting pacing point of view because it just feels so different. And they've done that with color scheme as well as the different types of furniture, which you wouldn't think would have a huge impact, but when your sole focus is rearranging and placing items, that has a huge different impact throughout. So I really enjoyed that. Just a small thing, yet could have a big memorable moment and a really interesting pacing that we've not seen before. And then we'll go to the Assemble with Care. One of theirs that you fix is that of a projector. And this one's a really important one simply because it's kind of an arc within the story where these two sisters are not getting along at all, and you're repairing items for both sisters. You're getting to learn their personality as well as their relations with each other's. And you finally get to create or fix this projector, which has slides of their relationship as kids, showing that they were once close but not as close now. And when you finally do this, is, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is the final piece which allows them to, come together. But I liked that it was something that was meaningful. Like, we had been fixing, I said, items for either sister, but now we're fixing an item for both of them, symbolize bringing it together. So I think the Assemble with Care, we're looking at it with, again, how do we take these two people and two stories and finally connect them, and thinking about what item will we use, each item expressing something different, right? You had that of when we first meet the older sister, she has this camera which is super expensive. Imagine something like a Leica or that if you're into cameras. And you're like, God, she even tells you how expensive this camera is. And you have that of the younger sister who's struggling to run her business, so you make for her sign, right? Her sign for her restaurant. And she even allows you to customize it. Do you want to go with the ice cream, the pizza, or the burger on the neon sign, compared to this camera, which, there is no customization, and the color scheme, again, very muted colors again. But if you've seen the camera, it's inspired by it's the material as well. But again, they're showing the personalities with each item, and then finally bringing us together with the projector itself. So yeah, a great part, and a very different way to, again, communicate story. And I really enjoyed that piece as well. So I'm just sharing some things that stuck with me as we go through. So that's where we're going to wrap it up, everyone. It's been a fascinating one for me to talk about, very different. And as I said, not had a huge amount of time to play games as much as I'd like. But to be able to play these different style games, which I normally wouldn't think about approaching, it's been brilliant, really eye-opening, and congratulations to both teams on making great games. I really appreciated them for different elements, and I hope that you've enjoyed this and seeing that, again, level design can be done in many different ways and many different styles. So if you want to make sure that you support the podcast, please do subscribe. If you want to reach out to me, then please do either on Twitter, which is @MaxPairs. If you want to email into the show with any recommendations, you can do so at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, and thank you to those who already do, head over to patreon.com/leveldesignlobby. Thank you all, take care, and we'll speak soon.